Hello, welcome to season 2 of Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne, your anxiety influencer and your host. In this season, we're going to dive deeper into what wealth really means, looking at how, as a recovering anxious woman, I get through day to day, week to week, and I'm going to be sharing the tools, the magic, and the things that I do daily to help me get through. I would also love to hear more from you in this season. You can reach out to me on my socials, on my email. You can send me an email explaining your anxiety issues, whether you're recovering or going through some things right now. And if it resonates with you, I would love to have you on the show so we can share our stories because we're all together in this. Now let's get on with today's episode. So have you ever thought to yourself, now this has been my trail of thought with a TH, for a few weeks, maybe months, that you do all the things, you're doing all the affirmations, the vision boards, all of the things we're told that we need to do to manifest, but you feel that there's something that you're not doing right, or you feel a bit stuck. I got into this a few months ago as I started to reflect on previous times, well, for the past few years when I've really been hitting my manifestation journey, my manifestation era, I guess. And I realized that something had shifted, and the shift was me. So I can't put the blame on anyone else, but I wanted to share it with you today because over the last couple of months, I finally hit the nail on the head, what I was actually doing wrong. And I think it's something that a lot of us will be unknowingly doing, and it's actually stopping us from being the best version of us and manifesting the things that we want to manifest. And I'm going to dive into it once we've pulled, well, I've already pre-pulled the card today and I found the page, How Organized Am I? So new set, this is, well, not a new set actually, a different set from the past 2 weeks, but my original set of Rebecca Campbell cards. By the way, I'm not sponsored or anything, it just so happens that I love her cards, so I get every set. Next week we'll use the spirit animal ones, the Work Your Light cards. So I pulled today, after a good shuffle, again, I'll put it on the screen for you if you're watching. The card is the ever unfolding rose. Cracked open, it's happening for you, not to you. And this really, as always, links with what I want to talk about today. If you are listening to this, I'm just going to give you a brief summary. There's a beautiful rose. There's a lady with a gorgeous silky dress standing at an open space of water. There's columns. I can only, if you think to ancient Greece, that kind of column, and also what looks like a church window. And again, the artwork is amazing. Let me read it to you and then we'll get into today's episode and why this one, again, I know the past 2 weeks been like, oh my god, this card really fits, but it really does. The challenge of life is to keep your heart open when you most want to close it, to let life crack you open, to open through hurt and loss, to allow what is falling away to fall away. Being human is a courageous act. A life well lived is full of losses and tragedies as much as triumphs and adventures. Whether you find yourself at the moment, life is coaxing you to keep your heart open, no matter how much it hurts, to continually unfold to let life crack you open. Perhaps you're going through a difficult time right now. Instead of cursing the difficulty, see it as a blessing to open yourself up to the truth that perhaps, as hard as it may be, life is happening for you, not to you. And one day, in the not too distant future, you may just bless the thing that broke you down and cracked you open because the world needs you open. Now is the time to go gently, to treat yourself like a tender, sweet baby, to wrap yourself in a blanket and trust that the mother has you cradled in her arms. The seas may not all be smooth sailing, but you are safe and you are held. One day, not too far from today, you'll look back at the transformation and be blown away by the poetry of life. Everything is going to be okay. And it just repeats that. Everything is going to be okay. Let it crack you open. Why that really lands with me today, particularly with what I want to talk about, is that over the past 6 months or so, I feel like things have really shifted energetically in me, and not necessarily in a good way. I feel like I was riding a high wave. So again, when the card says that there's ups and downs, I feel like I was riding a real high wave, and I could see where the magic was happening and things were coming in. But over the past few months, I've felt my energy just to be depleted slightly. Now, I've still been putting all the work in, but there's been things that have been pulling me energetically to another side. And obviously, with someone who is working through anxiety, I very easily can get swayed to the other side. I'll dive deeper into what's been pulling me over and the realizations that I've had. But just taking a moment for yourself just to reflect whether you also feel that at times you are doing them things, you're putting the manifestation things into process, you're making the lists, you're setting out the steps, however you manifest. And I'm going to share with you a few different ways today. And when we're manifesting and when we are working to reach a certain point, we're actually also rewiring our brain, because we have so many subconscious beliefs that are negative, that we can't, you're not good enough, and that's not available to you, and life should be hard, and blah, 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 blah. We have all of that within us subconsciously. So when we choose to actively manifest, as in have a manifestation practice, because we're all manifesting all of the time, whether we realize it or not by the spoken word, and whether we believe it or not. So as someone who does believe that there's no such thing as coincidences, and our thoughts can create our reality and our energy can create our reality, I do truly believe that. And I also believe that people who don't believe it are still doing the things, but they just don't have that, they just aren't labeling it, and they aren't actively trying. So they're not sitting down, or lying down when they go to bed and going through their visualizations and seeing them their future selves and all of those things that we do when we actively try to manifest. But what I want to talk about today is how if you suffer with anxiety or you struggle with keeping yourself feeling in a high energy, how that can affect our manifestations in both ways. I don't want this to be a negative podcast episode of, oh, I'm anxious, so I'm not manifesting anything. It's actually a really positive thing to be able to notice when your energy is being depleted by something other than your manifestation. I think I've just said manifestation so many times. So I want to start with the science and why anxiety can make manifestation so hard. And I know I spoke about last week then being no fix to anxiety. It's being able to support yourself, knowing that you are prone to being anxious. And this does fit in with our manifestations as well, or our trying to manifest certain things. Because when we are looking to manifest, we are then also helping our own mindset and helping to calm our nervous system in turn. So they do go hand in hand. Although I did actually Google went on my podcast before I did this episode to see if there was an episode that went into this, just so as part of my research. I have lots of notes here, but I couldn't find one. So hopefully this is the first one and lots of people are going to find it. So it will help you. So when we're anxious, our nervous system is stuck in fight or flight. This is our sympathetic nervous system. Ideally, we don't want to be here unless we are actually in fight or flight. This is great if we're being chased by a tiger, or there's not many places in your day-to-day life that you need to be in fight or flight. Maybe if you think someone's following you. I'm just trying to turn this into modern life because we don't really ever get chased by tigers anymore. But if you think someone's following you or you need to run from something. Now, a lot of our modern world, we're in fight or flight because we get an email from the boss that says, come and see me. I used to have this, and I've spoken about this before, that as a school teacher, you're kind of in this world of school where if you're sent to the head teacher's office, just like when you're a student and you have to go and sit outside the head teacher's office, it's still scary. So I would get emails XYZ wants to see you. And straight away, it's not, oh my God, what have I done? Is he going to say, well done for doing XYZ? It's, oh my God. And you're flicking through your brain to think, have I accidentally said something I shouldn't? Is my skirt too short? And then your body acts in your fight or flight. Your heart rate starts to increase and you get those physical symptoms of being anxious. When we're manifesting, when we're trying to manifest something, we actually want to be in the opposite state of mind. So this is where I found when I was introduced to manifestation that it was able to support one of the tools to support my anxiety. And when we're in fight or flight, what happens in our brain is the amygdala, please forgive me if I've said that incorrectly, which is So what actually happens when we're anxious, when we're in fight or flight? The amygdala, which is our fear center in our brain, is hyperactive. Prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that supports creativity. So those days where you are, I'm painting, decorating at the moment, and I've, done my own little bit of interior designing in the house. And, when you're in that creative mindset where tidying under the stairs doesn't feel like such a big job because you're putting up shelves and you're sorting out space and you're being creative even with the space. So you're making things tidy. This is why sometimes when we are cleaning and tidying and sorting, it is enjoyable because we are switched on the prefrontal cortex in our brain. But of course, when we're anxious and our amygdala, my brain's not working right now, is overactive, our prefrontal cortex goes to sleep. So instead of us being in that creative space of, oh my God, this is amazing, I'm painting, I'm going to create this, and this is how the room is going to look, and I'm going to put this here and this there, that part of our brain gets stuck and we're constantly scanning for danger. And just little flashback to last week's episode. This is where we can also get our intrusive thoughts, because our brain is putting us into this heightened sense of danger when we're not in danger. And then we'll start to get those thoughts of, oh my God, what if I crash my car into that tree? What happens if I just drop this baby on the floor? Those intrusive thoughts that we don't really want, but it's just our body trying to protect us. Our nervous system trying to protect us. Now think about manifestation. So like I've just said, we need to be creative when we're manifesting. We need to be able to sit and see ourselves 3 months into the future, 6 months into the future, 9 months, 10 years. We need to be able to visualize where we want to be. Even if you don't know where you want to be and you haven't got that visualization yet, just being able to put yourself into certain situations using your creative mind. And this is something that I do a lot because we see as well, and again, this might be linked to my anxiety, that sometimes I will see somebody else is doing something and then I'm like, do I need to manifest that? Is that something that I need to focus on? And I will use my prefrontal cortex, my creative mind, to put myself in those situations. So for example, I could put myself in my mind in a Ferrari driving down the main road, Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai, and I don't get that excitement from it. I don't get that, oh my God, this is meant for me. So that's something that I don't want to manifest. But when I use my prefrontal cortex, my creative brain, to put myself in a beautiful log cabin in Sweden in 10 years' time, surrounded by chihuahuas and working online, but being off grid as much as possible, and I can really feel into that life. I can see my partner going out to fetch wood to put on the fire, and I can live a day while I'm there. Whereas being in the Ferrari doesn't feel right. It just doesn't. I'm just like, I don't want that. I don't desire that. That is not something that feels good for me. That is not what I'm living in, some parallel universe. Gosh, my words today. And my parallel self is not living that life. Before I forget, podcast goes live every single Friday on your favorite podcast streaming website and over on YouTube if you prefer to watch. And every Wednesday on YouTube, you'll find my Wealth Live vlog, where I just share my day-to-day. So if you're nosy like me and you want to know how I navigate through life, that's where you want to be on Wednesdays. So when anxiety is running the show and we can't tap into that creative mind, and this happens to me, when my mind is too full of anxious thoughts, no matter how hard I try, I will then struggle to put myself in these amazing places, and I can't use my creative brain. And this is where I also find that, again, if you resonate with this, let me know, that I can go in peaks and troughs. And sometimes I am peaking for a long time and I will get my mindset then stuck in some anxious loop, and my manifestations and my visualizations and my creative side dips. And then this is where then I feel like, oh, I can't be bothered to think about that. I can't be bothered to manifest that. Oh, it's not going to work. And then I'm blocking myself from actually even trying. And the National Science Foundation, I found this out when I was doing my research. It's crazy that 90% of the thoughts we have each day are repetitive. So we're thinking 90% of the things exactly the same each day. 80% of that 90% are negative thoughts. So when we're in this anxious loop, we're spending a lot of our time just in this loop of anxious thinking. Now, for me, that anxious thinking lately has come from me falling into the trap of, I don't watch the news and I avoid mainstream media, but I've fallen into the trap of independent media, which, yes, may be telling us the truth, but I struggle even with that truth. So over the past few months, I've gone headfirst, and I love a rabbit hole, I love a conspiracy, but I've gone kind of the opposite way into worries about the future of, I'm just going to sum it up, the future of the planet, because I've watched so much independent media and thinking, well, this is okay because it's not mainstream media. But then I've gone the other way, that's then also started to make me anxious. So over the past couple of weeks, I've unsubscribed to a lot of things on YouTube that I was subscribed to. I've tried to reprogram my habit. Instead of listening to a podcast about the fall of Britain, I've started to listen once more to connecting with your spirit guides, your manifestation, as I used to 6 months before this. But I've just noticed over the past couple of months, like, what is happening here? I've fallen into the trap of me 5 years ago when I was watching the news, maybe COVID. I quit the news during COVID once I'd had that awakening of, this is not right, so I'm not going to watch the news, because I could feel it feeding my anxiety. And same as what is happening now, that I felt like, in a second, what is going on here? Because there's something not quite right with my creativeness at the moment. And when I'm not listening or searching for these things, or they're not coming up onto my algorithm, I'm then able to step back into my creative manifestation zone. And of course, this makes complete sense as well, because everything is energy, everything has its own vibration. So even though on the outside, I'm here thinking, well, I am vibrating high, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing all of these things, when I'm listening to these podcasts, and again, I'm thinking, right, this is okay because it's not the mainstream media, I'm actually bringing my vibration down unknowingly, I guess, because I was tricking myself into my subconscious to think, this is okay because it's not the news, it's not the BBC, it's not Channel 4. I'm listening to people who also want to know the truth. But it's kind of had the opposite effect. And I'd love to hear from you if you have found that for yourself, if you've fallen into a loop of listening to, I'm not going to say more negative, because is it negative? I don't know. They are trying to speak the truth about things. And it is a negative. And there you go again, I've just done it live as I'm recording, trying to overwrite the way that I'm thinking. So over the last couple of weeks, as I've been focusing on new tools to support my anxiety and creating, I've been in my creative mindset a lot more with my new toolkits and getting them into the shop, whereas I had a huge pause of those because my vibration was not high enough to think and create. If this episode is bringing you a little bit more wealth, please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. This allows other people, other women who need to hear these stories, find me. And again, if you have a story to share, please reach out to me on my email, joannewealth@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on my Instagram, joanne_wealth. I would love to have you on the show, or you can just type up and stay anonymous so we can share these stories with each other. Now let's get on with today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. And of course, because I was watching things and listening to podcasts that were bringing my vibration down, so I'm thinking, subconsciously thinking, right, I'm vibrating up here, let's create, let's do this, let's do that, I'm ready for this. But my subconscious was way lower and I wasn't matching the vibration that I wanted to be at because I was pulling myself down. And I just want to go back to vibration and energy, because everything we do, everything we see, everything that we touch, all has its own energy and its own vibration. And again, this is something that might sound woo-woo to some people, but we always say, well, we don't always say, the saying, I didn't like their vibe. Now, people can say that even if they don't believe in the law of attraction or energy or vibration, because we will just not get on with some people because of their vibration doesn't match our vibration. Every single mood or emotion has its own vibration. So think about when you are upset or sad and how you feel. It's a very low vibration. We literally feel low. When we're in that state of mind, we will physically appear low. You can look at somebody who's in that state of mind and tell by their body language if someone is sad or upset, because they will appear low, their shoulders will round. Whereas on the other hand, when we see somebody that's happy, joyful, confident, their shoulders are back, they're standing proud, they stand tall, their vibration is high, and we will feel that. And think about when you've walked into a room and everyone's quiet and you're like, oh, okay, what's going on? And you'll sit down and you might feel a little bit nervous or a little bit anxious because you're not sure, or everyone's looking down, and it's that feeling of someone's just got in trouble. And compare that to walking into a room that's loud and everyone's laughing and they're like, hi, how are you? Instantly your vibration is, oh my gosh, yes, amazing, hi, how are you? And you meet them on that vibration. It is a thing, it is science. There's no denying that we can feel that when we walk into a room and when we meet other people. Even our heart rate, when we're cool, when we're calm, when we're collected, when everything is just smooth, our heart rate matches that. And of course, when everything is chaotic, when we're nervous, when we're anxious, our heartbeat will change to suit that as well. And then what happens is when we are in that state, we will then start to meet people, or people will be in our vicinity who match that vibration. And it's literally a magnetism, which is where, again, the law of attraction, like attracts like. So you will find when you're having a bad day that you will probably start speaking to somebody at work or wherever you are, and they're also having a bad day. Whereas if you're having a really good day, the conversation will be different. You never really have a conversation with, well, we will with our friends, but generally, if you're like, oh gosh, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, and you're feeling really sorry for yourself and you're tired and your vibration is low, the person that you're then talking to is not like, wow, I feel amazing. They either already match your vibration, which is why you've magnetized to each other, or you're bringing them down to your level. When it comes to manifestation, the vibration and the energy that we have is, imagine when you're old-fashioned, I know people don't really tune in radios anymore. In the car, you just press a button. But when you used to have to tune in with the dial, and it was, and then you find the frequency that you want to listen to, and you can hear that music. That's exactly the same with manifestation, your mood, being a magnet for your miracles, being a magnet for your manifestations. You have to be on that right frequency. So just going back to myself over the last few weeks, that consciously I've been thinking, okay, I need to launch this, and I need to post this, and I need to share this. And it's there consciously because my conscious mind knows that I need to get my work done and I need to do the things, and it's life. However, my subconscious, my energy, my vibration, because of the things that I've been watching, has pulled my vibration down. And this is why over the past few weeks, well, I've been changing it over the past few weeks. I can't put a date on it. I just had a sudden realization of something's not right here, because I don't feel the same and my manifestations are not happening in the same way either. Yes, they were still happening. Yes, on the new moon, I was still putting out there, I'm looking for an amazing opportunity, and a new amazing opportunity has come along. But there's other things that I'm not matching because my vibration isn't there. And I really had to sit down and think, right, this is a me problem. This isn't somebody else's problem. But again, that's sometimes hard for us to do because we don't want to admit that we are our own problem. This is where the law of attraction and anxiety can meet in the middle. And once you learn how to support your anxiety, you then become a magnet for the miracles, the magic that you want to manifest. It's not about ignoring your anxiety or ignoring the things that you've been doing and bringing your energy down. It's about noticing that and think, right, there's something that I can do about this. And it's just as easy as stopping and flipping those subconscious beliefs that we've suddenly started to fill our brains with. So for me, reminding myself that the world is not a bad place. And yes, there are people in the world that do bad things, but not everybody does bad things. And I also had to remind myself that not everything you see on social media is real, and there is an algorithm for a reason. So here I am seeing my algorithm and thinking, oh my God, this is terrible. All these terrible things are happening. But I could speak to somebody else who has a completely different algorithm, which is kind of how I came about this, that I would mention things to people and they're like, I've not heard that. Like, how can you have not heard about this thing? It's everywhere. But it's not. It's just on my algorithm. And my algorithm is feeding that low vibration. And then it's just a vicious circle, because then I keep watching because I'm feeding into those feelings of anger and resentment and scarcity and lack and being scared of what's going on in the world, instead of actually I choose not to watch that, and I choose to focus. I get to decide what I consume. And right now I am working on consuming once more things that are going to raise my vibration. This morning I was listening in the car instead of the podcast that I usually listen to, because the subject matter of the podcast would have pulled my vibration down. I'm re-listening to what's it called? The book is called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I can't remember who the author is. And as he was talking this morning, I just thought, this is why I've picked this. It was literally talking to me. That when we get those thoughts of, I can't do that, that's not for me, we have to really flip it. The example he gave was somebody just wanted to design a handbag, I think it was, and her initial thought was, I can't afford it, that's not for me. And she stopped herself and said, that is my handbag, that will come to me. I don't know, can't remember the exact wording, but that will come to me when I'm ready for it. And she had the exact handbag bought for her birthday. So just those little stories, I'm like, okay, yes, thank you for that reminder. So we've talked about the nervous system, we've talked about the science bits, we've talked about energy, we've talked about vibration. So I'm going to bring a little bit of psychology into this mix, because this is where it all starts to click together. So at the core, manifestation isn't just about writing down a list. I desire to have a new car. I desire to make £10,000 a month. I desire to have this. It's not just that. Yes, that is an element of it. You have to say out loud or write down on paper what it is that you want to get that out there, or just repeat in your mind's eye, which is also fine. That's how I do it a lot these days. It's also about shaping your beliefs and acting on those beliefs and finding ways that you can act so they align with those beliefs. So for example, yes, you love a new car. So I desire a new car. I can see myself driving the new car. My new car is blue. I'm actually getting a new car actually over the next week. So manifesting this blue car, turquoise to be exact, and it's going to be here before the lease ends on my current car. Now, I could say all of that, but it's not going to happen unless I go to the car garage and speak to the salesman about the new car and tell him what date I need to have my new car, and also not to renew the lease on the car that I have at the moment. Otherwise, I'm telling the universe that I want to keep that car. So I had to put these things into steps so that I will get the car that I desire at the time that I desire it. And even though that process was very simple, because I was having a bit of an anxious dip, my anxious brain started to kick in here, and you get what's called a cognitive bias, where then I started to think they're not going to have the car, it's not going to be here in time, I'm going to have to pay extra for this, and I don't have that money for that, and this whole scenario in my head that may not even happen. Interestingly, when I was doing a little bit of research for this, researchers at Cambridge University found that 75% of, sorry, not 75%, anxious people overestimate threat by 75%. So that's all anxious people overestimate the threat of things that might happen by 75%. Now, how crazy is that? Like 75% of my anxious thoughts are overestimating the worst thing that can happen. And speaking from someone with anxiety, and I've gone through the motions, even for myself, I remind myself all of the time, how often has the worst thing happened? And if it has, and the worst thing in my eyes, how often have I not come out the other side? Because I wouldn't be where I was now if after every single negative thing that's happened to me, I haven't been able to come out the other side even stronger. And I have to remind myself of that. And that 75% of my anxious brain is just overactive. It's like wearing a special pair of glasses when you're anxious that only show you the bad things that can happen. But then when you take them off, you actually realize that, oh, it was just the glasses the whole time. Nothing was real. It wasn't real. It was all completely made up scenarios in my own head. There's also something called I've written it down here so I can get Baader-Meinhof. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Baader-Meinhof. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, also known as the frequency bias. You've probably heard this lots of times, but just to reiterate, this is when, so for example, I decided I wanted this turquoise car. So now everywhere I go, I see this turquoise car. Of course I do, because I'm putting it into my mind. The same as when, for me, do I want a fringe? Do I not want a fringe? Suddenly, everywhere I look, all the girls have fringes. So then I get fringe envy. I'm like, oh, I want my fringe. Or if you have cut your hair, everywhere you might go, you might see short hair. Or if you're growing your hair, you might see long hair. These little tiny things that are really insignificant, but we put them into our heads. Try it. Try and think of something that you want or something you desire, or I don't know, put something in your mind, a place that you'd like to go on holiday, and you will start seeing that, because what you're actually doing, because you put your attention to it, you will then notice it. Now, this is not the same as when you are talking to your guides and asking for signs. Slightly different. So it's with a frequency bias, it's just you're going on your day-to-day life and you will see it there. When you talk to your guides, you are asking for something specific and not going to your usual places, and that's where it will be. So there is a slight difference. I hope that makes sense, because I have spoken to someone about this before and they were like, oh no, that's your signs, but it is slightly different. So if I think, yes, I'm going to get this blue car, I'm switching on my blue car alert, and I will see blue cars everywhere. Whereas when I ask my guides, show me a ladybird, show me that everything's going to be okay, that is slightly different, because I'm specifically asking for something and not just putting it into my mind. And what this actually shows us at that, once we put a thought into our minds, we are then drawn to it. So yeah, the blue car, amazing. And these new trainers that I want, so I'm seeing them everywhere. This is the same with our anxious thoughts. So as soon as we put that thought in our mind, oh my God, this is going on in the UK and everything's terrible and everything's awful, that is all I am going to see. And that is then going to solidify my anxiety, which is then going to keep my energy low, which is then going to stop me from having my high vibration, which is then going to make my manifestations even more difficult. Can you see how it then all fits in? Because we wouldn't normally put anxiety and manifestation in the same sort of pocket, but they do go hand in hand. Not in a good way. Your anxiety can help block it, but they work alongside. You need to support your anxiety to get your manifestations, and to get your manifestations, you need to support your anxiety. Flip side. So as soon as you recognize this, so for me, as soon as I recognize that, hang on a minute, I'm putting too much focus on these negative things, and it's affecting my creativity. It's affecting the things that I'm manifesting. My manifestation process isn't as seamless as it has been because I am stuck in this endless loop. The flip side, I get to change that. How amazing is that? And you get to rewire your brain. And again, linking back to last week's episode, if you haven't listened to it, go and have a little listen, because this is what I was talking about last week, that there's no end point. Because it's, for me, I've been doing this work now for 7 years, and like I've explained in this episode today, I have had a dip where I haven't even realized I've gone into this anxious dip, mainly because it wasn't as a dip as when I was living with anxiety every day, but I've just been caught in this negative loop that's been feeding into my anxiety. And I started to notice some things happening, like waking up and thinking about certain things and not being able to sleep, not being able to go back to sleep because of these negative thought patterns. And I was, hang on a minute, this is popping up again for me here. What do I need to do? And again, so this really shows us that manifestation, anxiety, the science, the psychology, the energy, the vibration, it does all fit together. And these are some things that are quite esoteric. These are not things that we can touch. We can't touch anxiety. And how anxiety feels to me will feel completely different to somebody else. We can't touch manifestation. It is a thing that we do. It is a process. It is a skill. And then we have the psychological studies and the science that allows us to see where, again, we can't touch energy and vibration. We just, again, it's a feeling. And then we have the psychological, we have the science that can then say, actually, this is a real thing and this is how it all links together. So next time somebody is, and you get it a lot, like, oh, that's not real, that's all woo-woo, XYZ. Just put it to them that when you're having a bad day, do you magnetize more bad things? When you're having a good day, what makes a good and a bad day? It's our energy, it's our vibration. When you're vibrating high, amazing things will happen. And this is why I think that sometimes people will then say, well, if that's a thing, then why do bad things happen to good people? We don't know what their subconscious beliefs are. Yes, they might be a really good person on the outside, but if on the inside they are negative talking to themselves, or they have health anxiety, for example, and they really believe that negative things are going to happen in their bodies. In the in the book that I'm listening to, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, he talks about people who were positive, but then a man in the story, not the story, it's a true story, his story that he was telling to show this point, that a man went to see a fortune teller and he was fit, he was healthy, but the fortune teller told him that he was going to die and this was going to happen. He totally bought into it and he rewired his subconscious thoughts and got ready for his own death, and then he died. Even though his friends and family were like, he was healthy and this has come out of nowhere. But he totally took on this story. And the same works opposite ways. And I've listened to Louise Hay, Heal Your Mind, Heal Your Body. I can't remember the exact title of the book, but she talks about how the power of positive mind can help you to heal physical ailments. And she healed from cancer from rewiring her thoughts. And I really believe that my father is still here today because he was so positive when he was sick, and now he lives every single day and he says thank you and he's grateful to be here. Another day, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm living another day. How amazing is that? And that's what he will say when you ask him if he's okay today. And that is, I do believe, keeping him, he doesn't dwell on his illness. If he does, it's not out loud. He may do internally, but because of the way that he is externally, I think he's rewired his brain and he's just able to deal with that. And this is an opportunity that we all have to do every time we need to do it. And just myself, I felt myself slip and I'm pulling myself right back. So to end, I'm going to share a few of my favorite tools that I use to pull myself back. So first thing, I've mentioned this a few times, so I won't go into this because I know I dropped on it. Just rewiring your thoughts. You can rewire your subconscious mind. When you catch those thoughts, when you feel or hear yourself in your head saying that that's never going to happen, that's not for me, I'm not going to do this anymore, catch it, rewire it. Remind yourself of your why. What is your intention? An example that I did a few weeks ago when I took the time off the podcast, I was also having that, I'm not going to go back to it. What's the point? No one's going to listen and I've been doing it for 2 years now and, I'm still not Joe Rogan and all of these thoughts that were going through my head. And I had to rewire and remember my why. That even if one person listens to this and they're like, right, okay, I'm going to make that change, then my job is done. And it will happen when it's ready, where I will have millions and millions of listeners like Joe Rogan. And I really believe that that is my path to help people and I have to start somewhere. But when I was in my anxious dip, I really had to rewire because I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to do it. And I can tell you that now because I feel like I'm on the other side. I probably might have mentioned it actually in the last episode, but yeah, I'm not afraid. I'm honest and real on this podcast. So if there is something that you feel like you're doing exactly that, you're putting off, you're putting yourself down, remind yourself of your why. Why did you want to do that in the first place? Rewire your thoughts, flip them over and start again. Of course, it wouldn't be an episode of mine to help with anxiety coming into your breath. And I do this so many times throughout the day. If I catch a negative thought, I'll blow it away, or an intrusive thought. So I'll catch it, I'm not accepting it, and I'll send it away. And even just sighing helps you to relax your body. So using your breath. Of course, meditation. And finding a meditation that helps you. I kind of go through phases with meditation. So sometimes I just like music and I will just sit and listen to not meditation music, or I'll find a guided meditation that really resonates with me and I'm really able to just keep going back to. And the recent one that I got addicted to is Bob Proctor Abundance Meditation. It's just very simple. He's just talking. The music's not out of this world, but it does the job. And he guides you through looking around and seeing everything that you have around you. Another nice YouTube channel that I use, the Psychic Soul Meditations. She has new moon, full moon. There's lots of meditations on there, so I recommend hers. If you like a guided meditation, hers are 30 minutes. So head there. And I would say, personally, I like to do the same meditation for about 30 days. Then I'll switch. Because I feel once you've heard it a few times, you're then able to stop listening, but you're also listening at the same time, and you're able to go a little bit deeper. So when a meditation is new and you hear the words for the first time, you're listening, of course, to what they're saying. So when you've heard it a few times, you know what's coming and you can really step into the visualization of it. Movement, yoga, going for a walk, anything that allows you to move your body, anything that lights you up. I recently bought a bike. I cannot wait until the weather cools down because I'm going to go out on my bike around the community. I think there's a 5K track that goes around, not to train, not to race, but for my mind, to just feel the wind in my hair, to get a little bit of exercise, to move, to be able to go a little bit further than I can if I was walking, just for that reset. You can also, if you've ever tried somatic movement, there's lots of somatics on YouTube. You can find a free one on there, or just put your favorite song on and jump around like a crazy person and dance. When I was, meditating then, not meditating, decorating, although I did come into a little bit of a meditative state, I had rock music on, 80s rock, and I had such a good day, just in the zone, with the music, listening to guitars, not thinking about anything, and I could have painted all day. I could have just carried on. We did it as a pair, and then after a while, when Joe got bored, my partner got bored, he went off, and I just finished it because I was in that zone and I was having a lovely time. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to paint my bathroom and the bathroom downstairs, and like I said, it was very therapeutic. I really enjoyed it. Yesterday I cleaned under the stairs, and for me, it sounds boring, I know, but for me, when I am coming out of a bit of a stump, I do get this kick of moving things around and throwing things away and having a bit of a shift, making space. And that's clear your wardrobe. That's another, I did mine a few weeks ago, but I know there's a few things in there that I held on to that I don't actually want, that I was kind of iffing and ahhing. So I'm going to give them to the lady that comes every week to look after the dogs. We're going to leave them for her this week. And even just thinking of doing that helps to raise my vibration. So I hope all of that has helped you today. Please let me know if you have any questions, leave a comment, share with a friend if you think this will help. And if you're interested in learning more about my toolkits, I think there's 6 completed now. There's one for anxiety, there's one for overthinking, there is hormones, blah, 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 I can't think off the top of my head. So what I've done is taken my huge toolkit that I use when I am mentoring, and I've split that into smaller chunks. You can also buy the huge toolkit to work through yourself. There's videos, there's podcasts, there's journal prompts, there's everything you need to self-mentor. And then of course, if you're looking for a mentor, life mentor, health mentor, wellness mentor, all of the things, drop me a message and we can have a little chat to see how I can support you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I just want to end by reminding you that wealth really isn't about having money in the bank. It's about feeling at home in your mind, your body, and your soul. And don't forget, if you do have your own story to share, you can email me, joannewealth@gmail.com. You can reach out to me on Instagram, joanne_wealth. I'd love to have you on the show, or just share your story with me and I will share it to the other women that need to hear. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Every single one of those means the world to me.